All right, folks, hello and welcome back to Online English Class. Today we have a brief check-in where I'm going to basically assign and explain some source work that you need to be undertaking for OTN 3. All right, before we get into that, let's just run through our top of the week announcements so that we can make sure we have everything under control. Okay, so make sure that you are continuing to participate in the class discussion by leaving a comment on the YouTube video, either an insightful question, a succinct summary, or a thoughtful reflection on the content that was discussed. All right, so yesterday, Tuesday at 3 p.m., you should have submitted OTN 2, completing your analysis of the conversation surrounding the construction of the Cordoba House Mosque. Using the resources that we analyzed last week. Okay, we're going to now begin in earnest our work on OTN 3 yesterday. In our class on Tuesday, we simply looked at the prompt a little bit, read through it very briefly. Today, you should begin the process of sitting with these sources. All right, so our class period together, the video is going to be fairly short. But class is not over until you have analyzed the first two sources in this conversation. So make sure that you are doing that. Okay, that is part of the course, and it is being assigned to you. All right. So you also, if you are an AP, need to make sure that you are finishing up your progress check. All right, by today at 3 p.m. All right. So that's a slow burn. You could have worked on that over the course of the whole last week. All right, so that just needs to be turned in by 3 p.m. today. And then obviously you need to get started on Unit 8 progress check, and you can do that at your leisure throughout the course of the week. It will be due next week on Tuesday, as usual. All right. If you are in the honors or regular course, then basically your homework can be summarized as keeping up with your OTNs, all right, and making sure that you are drafting your quarter 4 essay. If you're in the AP course, your homework can be summarized as keeping up with your OTNs, making sure that your quarter 4 essay is getting done, and making sure that your weekly free response question AP practice is getting done. I've had some questions about whether or not I'm going to be scoring those free response questions, or how you get feedback for those free response questions. Okay, I would score them, and right now I don't have time to go through with my paper load and score them. But what I'm going to do, they are going to get scored. Maybe not all of them, and maybe not in a great deal of detail, but I'm going to use your free response question responses as samples whenever we're reviewing for the exam in the week prior to your exam, which is May 20th. Okay, so if you write really, really terribly, okay, you might get the awesome opportunity to be the bad example for one of these, for an example of an essay that isn't accomplishing the standards established by the prompt. But if you write really, really well, then perhaps I'll get to sing your praises publicly on YouTube in front of the known world, okay? Obviously, I will not attach names to any of these pieces of writing, and they will not be written in your handwriting. They will be typed. So you will be completely anonymous and therefore free from shame, okay? Let's go ahead and get into OTN 3, all right, which is basically what you need to begin working on today, all right? And you're going to look at the first two sources from this collection of documents, all right? So yesterday we talked about the prompt. I want to quickly return to the central theme of the prompt, which is about how John Brown should be memorialized, okay? So whether or not he should be remembered as an American patriot, American hero, someone who is worthy of emulation, all right, or whether he should be remembered as someone who rightfully was killed, an enemy of the state, a traitor, an individual whose ideas were not and actions were not only dangerous for the period of time that he lived in, but for all periods of time. All right, for the American people in general, right? Okay, so in other words, in order to answer this question, you're going to have to establish, right, a few kinds of criteria. First and foremost, you're going to have to consider what it might mean, all right, to behave like an American hero, all right, as some people argue that Brown is, right? What is an American hero? What does an American hero value? How does an American hero enact those values in various situations? Then you might want to look at John Brown's actions compared to that criteria, and then draw a rational conclusion in light of the premises that you've established. Right? So that's a very simple line of reasoning. So where does your evidence from your sources come in? Well, it comes in as you are supporting, right, your presentation of John Brown, right? So first, you need to establish some criteria that you're going to hold John Brown up next to. Then you're going to, using the sources, portray or paint a portrait of John Brown, all right? Using both his own words, which of which you have two documents written by him, all right, that you're going to analyze today, and then the words of some of his contemporaries and supporters, and then you've got some voices that are sort of more contemporary voices that are against him, and some that are for him, all right, and you can use all of those voices in order to construct your own portrayal, your own portrait of this individual, holding him next to, right, the criteria for what it would mean to be a hero, for what it would mean to behave in a way that was worthy of being memorialized as an American hero. All right. So the first two sources you're going to look at, all right, first is John Brown's last speech. It was given about a month before he was executed. It was his last public opportunity to speak publicly. It was published. It's obviously part of America's historical record. Um, he was executed in Charleston, West Virginia, shortly after this speech. And basically, what he is doing, all right, is he is attempting to articulate why he did what he did and whether or not he feels bad about what he did. And I'll give you a kind of hint. He doesn't feel bad, all right? He feels completely justified in what he did, and sort of intimates that he would do it again because it was the right thing to do. All right. And then the second resource that gives us a kind of portrayal of John Brown's values, his sort of psychology, what kind of man he was, what kind of father he was, what kind of husband he was, is articulated to us in this last letter to his family, which was written days before his execution. Okay, so obviously he had a very big family. He wrote this to his second wife. His first wife had obviously died in childbirth, as mentioned in the prompt. Okay, but his second wife and his many, many children, he's writing this last letter to, sort of offering some kind of counsel for what he wants them to do. All right, how he wants them to live when he is gone. Now, all of his counsel is not directly related to, the Harper's Ferry incident. He's not like, and now I really want you to go grab your muskets and go back to Harper's Ferry and finish the work that I began. No, he's mostly just like giving them everyday kinds of advice, and heavily is just basically saying, follow God, be godly. Um, so, in other words, how is that source going to be related to our prompt? Well, it gives us a portrait of the kind of man and the values that John Brown had. All right, and you can hold those values up against the criteria that you establish independently of what an American hero would be like, and then draw a rational conclusion. Okay. Same thing with the last speech. How does the last speech relate to how John Brown should be memorialized? Well, it's a little more on the nose. Okay, so what I want for you to do today, okay, is make sure you engage with the rhetorical situation, summarize the central claim and line of reasoning of each text, and then consider carefully how each text relates to the main idea of the prompt. All right, I want you to do that for these first two sources, okay, and after that, you're done with your daily work for English class. You can work on your essay if you want to. You can finish up your progress check if you want to. You can work ahead in these source packets if you want to. All right, but as usual, we're going to be spending a few days working through these sources. I'm going to be assigning the work, sort of generally directing your thoughts like I just did. And then we'll be drawing some conclusions together in your outlines. All right, that's kind of the flow of the class for this unit. Okay, we've got a unit test coming right around the corner. The unit test is going to look very similar to these kinds of prompt analysis and synthetic analysis prompts. Okay, you're going to get a prompt. You're going to have a bunch of text that you're going to sort of wheel together into a reasonable argument that responds to the prompt. Okay, so go ahead, make sure that you're practicing that skill on a daily basis. All right, looked at these two sources, and we are done for the day, guys. Jump into it and crush it.